Okay,
Got
perfect.
it.
So you had some questions that you wanted to ask today, and I have to pull it up unless you remember them specifically. Mm, 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 mm. Okay, so regarding replacement property, so you're dealing with a seller who is also going to be a buyer, and you're going to do a listing and a closing and a purchase concurrent on the close, right? That's what your goal is.
That's what the goal is, yes. And we did sign a listing. They're not going to go on for 2 months. Yeah, thank you. They're not going to go on for 2 months because we want to make sure this week, number one, we find out with the lender because they've refinanced on their home. So there's a very small net.
Okay.
And we want to make sure they're comfortable on the side of buying because they made a reference yesterday that they might want to pay off some bills. So, I'm sure the lender they speak with is going to give them some great options.
Sure.
Maybe because they haven't purchased in 8 years, maybe they're eligible for a first-time home buyer, which would be great.
Ooh, good point. Yeah.
But my question is, once all that happens, say we can move forward, we're since we're not going up for 2 months, I'm gonna put them on alerts.
Okay. Smart.
And I've already opened escrow today, just to have that ready in case we find something to write an offer on. Then
So,
we could write the offer and then go on the market
so
immediately.
right.
But with that, of course, they have concerns, and I think this would be great to share with everybody because um, they like what their concerns are. On the listing agreement we put contingent. There's a box there. This home is contingent on them finding a property. Now their biggest concern, and maybe you can elaborate a little bit more, for a seller who's buying, that contingency is there's only like so many days that we have to find a home before this clears.
No.
Or go
No,
ahead.
so that might be a little confusing with 1031 exchange. When you have a seller who is purchasing a property through a 1031 exchange, they have 45 days to identify a property. And then once they identify a property within those 45 days, then they have 180 days to complete that transaction. That's for 1031 exchange. If these guys are not 1031 exchange, then their contingency is, hey, whoever buys our house at 123 Banana Street, this city, means buyer, you can buy my house, but it's contingent on me finding a replacement property. There's no timeline to that, except there is a PRBS form that says I'm contingent on buying a property. When they go and purchase a property, they put an offer on a property, then the COP form, contingent on sale of the other property, that form is going to go to the seller of the house that they want to buy. That seller can then impose a date or a timeline for that buyer, your sellers, to remove that as a contingency. So that on the other side, on the buy side, the seller can say, okay, I want you, yeah, it's a hot market. You can buy this house, but you only have 10 days to sell your other house, or 30 days, 90 days. So it's going to be on that other form.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, there's always that concern is when you go to list your property, is someone going to buy your house?
Yeah.
And that,
So,
I
I
mean,
mean, but the PRBS helps them when that gives them peace of mind. That way they have their out on both sides. As long as you have the COP form and the PRBS form, your sellers are covered.
now if you can, if someone doesn't know what the PRBS actually stands for, is that possible representation? Is
Uh,
that, or is that a completely different form? Because when I went to look at the PRBS form yesterday, I was thinking, well, on the listing agreement, that came up as the possible representation of multiple buyers or something like that.
um, oh,
RBS.
oh, 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 oh,
So
yeah, saying that.
that's what I'm going to make sure because I read that and that's
It's
just
not
the
the PRBS form. Sorry, it's the SPRP form. Sorry, there are so many acronyms. Let me
It's okay. I want to clarify that because I want to make sure too. What was that again?
SPRP.
SPRP. So when does that get signed?
Hang on, let's see, let me pull it up. SPR, it's the seller replacement property form, California. I'm just typing this in since we're on the fly here. Seller's purchase of replacement property. That is the name of the exact name of the form. So this form is going to be, this is the one where you're telling as a listing agent, hey, I am putting my house on the market for sale, but it's contingent on me finding another property. So 1A, finding replacement property. The agreement is contingent on seller entering into a contract to acquire replacement property, finding replacement property. Seller shall have, the standard date is 17 days or X amount of days. You definitely want to put more than that. Or it might be sufficient depending on, right now you have a 2-month lead time. So,
You
you
could be in a contract.
right, right. And then, or seller has entered into a contract to acquire replacement property, blah, blah, blah. So this is when you have the listing, this is something you're going to give to any buyer that puts an offer on your property.
Okay, so this will be in like the disclosure package.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, so okay, got it. And that's good to know. And I'm glad you clarified that.
Yeah. So SPRP, not PRBS. All the letters.
You're kind of all there.
Almost all there, yeah. And then the other one is the COP. Let's pull that one up.
Yeah,
COP.
I briefly looked at that yesterday, and there's a lot there. If you're not familiar, like I have not seen that for myself either, there's a lot going on because you're like, okay, which one do I, you obviously got to read through it, but how do you know it's just based on situations, I guess.
So this is the one where, so this is going to be between the buyer and the seller, sale of buyer's rights. So when you write the offer for your buyers on their next house, there's a check mark box on the RPA, the purchase agreement, that says that they are buying this property, but it's contingent on the sale of their property. That form might automatically populate through zip forms. I'm not entirely sure. If it doesn't, this is a document that you're supposed to submit with your offer. It tells the seller, hey, we are going to get funds from property A that we're selling over here to buy this property B over here. It's in escrow, if it is in escrow, or here's the MLS number once it's listed, et cetera. And you just, all of the numbers in here, 1 through 8, are going to depend on what situation your clients are actually in. Is it already listed? Do they already have it in contract, et cetera? If they do, then you just mark what's applicable. Right now, it just seems like, I don't know which one I would mark because you don't know what situation they're in at the moment. So
We just have to wait. And just for reference, on the RPA, it's on page 2 and it's L8.
there you go.
That box would be marked is
Read it.
contingent.
Which one does it say? Read it, please.
Yeah, I have the contract here, page 2. It's in the contingencies, section I, intentionally left blank. It's L8 or paragraph 8J, sale of buyer's property. Sale of buyer's property is not a contingency, then you wouldn't have to mark this, but unless checked here, CAR form COP attached.
Okay, so it should automatically populate as soon as you check mark that box in zip forms.
Now, when you do get into contract on both sides, how does that, are you just communicating with the listing agent so you can close concurrently the same time? How does that situation?
That is when it is a very it's a fine line and it's a juggling act. You have to really make sure and pad for time if you need to on either side. So think about when you take the listing, right? Once that offer comes in for your sellers, you have a buyer on that end. Awesome, great. And your sellers have already identified a property that they want. or okay, if this one's still available, and if we get into contract by this weekend, let's write an offer and let's get in. Okay, great, gets accepted. Then you have to do, automatically, you're probably going to do like a 30-day escrow where you already have one over here. You can extend on either side to make it concurrent. It's really hard to make them close and close on the same exact day. It can happen, but it's very hard to make that happen. So it's going to be close one and with a seller in place in possession for like 2 or 3 days, maybe. Okay, fine, and then they
Rent
close.
back, maybe free rent back for like a week, just to.
Yeah, you might need
For
that. Just know that, keep that in the back of your head. You're gonna try and do them definitely the same week of closing time, but sometimes things
just don't
that
happen.
you can't control happen that prevent it from happening on the same date. That's why it's like a juggling act, and you have to be on it. You have to be on your calendar timeline. You have to be in detailed communication with both sides, and you have to give detailed communication to both sides. That way everybody's on the same page. Everybody knows the timelines. Everybody knows the dates. Everyone knows everything that's happening. That way there's no surprises. And so when you do need to extend, everyone's like, okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, we
Because
understand.
we've been informed. Now, also, depending on which kind of loan they have, right? Because there's only so many days, whatever loan they have, right? Say if they can't go past a certain date, that's something to be very much aware of as well, right? But the lender will let you know all that.
Yes,
If so, that could be a problem too,
right.
correct?
Yes. Mhm. And appraisals can be a problem, like things that are out of your control.
Now you're just doing two things on one
Yeah,
side.
yeah, yeah. But as long as you keep very clear on the calendar, what's supposed to happen when, and whether it's the client or the other agent, if you're waiting on something from somebody else and they say, oh, we'll get that to you this week, well, when this week? Today
Yeah.
or tomorrow?
Mhm.
Morning or night? You really need to nail them down when it comes to juggling both sides, because when it says we'll get it this week, that could be Friday at 5 o'clock, and that could really put your clients back. So it all kind of depends, and you really need to put everyone's feet to the fire when it comes to timelines and just watch it carefully.
Mhm. And this is an interesting time because also we now have the BRBC that we're enforcing, and for there's clients that have not don't even know about it.
Right, right. And that's okay if they don't know about it, because that's why you're the professional and you're there to explain what that's about. And tell me, did you get a chance, an opportunity to do that over the weekend?
I sure did. And I just kind of let them know what was going on with the situation. Nothing's in place yet, but I did say, as you wanting me to represent you as a buyer's agent, I just want to let you know this they're enforcing. No, nobody is immune to this. All agents, seasoned, new agents, we all kind of have to follow these guidelines. Think of it like your listing. I'm exclusive with you. It's not like another listing agent is going to come. They want to do the same for the buyer's agent. You know, we want to make sure, just like you go to work and you have a commitment with your job, that I'm committed to you. And just in case we find a property that the sellers are not paying out a commission, this is the due, this is what I'm expected to, what I look for. And they totally understood that.
Oh, good. And did
So
you have any questions?
no, well, they were like, well, how much will that be? And I said, it just depends on the price point of the home, and I will let you know. And I said, if you're not happy with my work at any time on the buy side, or either, we're signing this as exclusive because I'm working for you,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know, and if you go see someone else and you have this sign and you didn't tell me, then and you sign something, I'm expected still to get paid because you hired me to do this. And they were I just wanted to make sure, and I told them I just wanted to make sure I am upfront, honest, and transparent with you
Good
about
work.
everything, so that when you move forward and make your decision, I don't want you to be blindsided by anything. They
Perfect.
totally understood it.
Good. Yay. And it wasn't so scary when you were done, right?
No, and we did it everything in an hour, and I was like, "Whoosh." I don't know how I did that, but but they
Because
were very easy
you
to work with.
knew what you needed to get done. You were prepared ahead of time. You were organized. You had everything. And you really knew in your head what the default was for the goal of that day was the listing. And if you could do the BRBC, great. If not, you were going to focus on the listing. So you already had a plan. And when you know that, that's half the battle because then you don't feel like you're kind of scrambling or all over the place. You have to, and and that's good. And it's not always easy to get planned and organized, especially with life stuff happening, right? So family, other
Yeah.
jobs or whatever. So it's something that in of itself is a juggling act. So good job. I'm proud of you.
And I wanted to make sure, and everybody has their own style, but for me, it takes me a day or two. I start preparing ahead day or two because I don't want to miss something on that day. And I made two files. I made two folders for them. And on the buy side, I put together a sample copy of the purchase agreement because since we have time, I want them to be aware of what their offers might come and also to know when we go to write an offer, this is the form we're using.
Mhm.
So I give them a copy of that, a copy of the home warranty because I want, they should know, like with any of our buyers and sellers, someone it's negotiable. These are the prices of what they are, and to be prepared for that too. So I just kind of put a little package together for both of them. But yes,
That was
this
smart to put the home warranty in there.
I do. I put a copy of them for them so they have that and they're not surprised in case they're asked to pay for it.
Right.
These are the prices. That way they're. So I felt going in like that, there's less reason for them to, I mean, they could always ask questions, of course.
Right.
But I feel the more prepared we prepare ourselves for them, they understand like, okay, this is easier because I have everything here for me. And I reassure them every step of the way because a listing appointment is very overwhelming
Mhm.
and it's very overwhelming for the lady yesterday because you have to tell them to depersonalize.
Oh,
Right.
yes. How did that go?
I could see the emotion come over, and of course because it's all her kids pictures and stuff like that, but that's part of the reason why you want to move. You have to depersonalize because when someone comes into the home, they will look at your stuff.
Mhm.
They're not going to look at your home. They're going to look at who your kids are. you know, they focus on that. Just like when you go to a model home for a new construction, you look at all the nice stuff, and then when you actually get the house, they're like, "This doesn't look the same."
That's true.
So you have to prepare them on both sides for that. And I take that little extra step to make sure, to explain and reassure her. Yes, yesterday was a lot of information, but every time we get into something, I'm going to be there every step of the way, and we're going to go through it together so that you understand what's going on.
Perfect. Good. Good. So you felt really good after you were done with everything.
Yeah, I felt good. Still, and then last night, it's funny, like any agent, like, oh my God, what did I get myself into?
A really good situation, in my
A
opinion.
good situation that's thinking, "Oh my god, what comes first? What? I haven't done this in a long time." It's been, probably about 4 years since I had my last one, and I don't remember going through this.
Okay.
So I thought it may be good to share because now we have the BRVC involved. If you do have, you're gonna have to explain, and this is the perfect situation. Do you want people to come see your home?
Yeah.
Are you gonna pay out to agents? Now, what happens if you're in the same situation with the other person,
Yeah.
the buyer now?
Yeah. It's good. I'm glad
So,
we had those conversations.
yeah.
Yay. Good job.
Thank you. But yeah, thank you for sharing that information. And I'm sure, as it goes, we could share with the group as experiences come up. That way they like, if they get into sell by,
Mhm.
that it won't be so scary.
That's right. It's not scary.
It's not scary. We support each other.
Good. All right,
Excuse
cool. Let's see. Let me go ahead and stop this.